Hey church, so glad that you could join us again today for our daily Devo. If you've been following along with us, we are going through the book of 1 Corinthians. And today we are looking at chapter 8. Here in chapter 8, Paul is trying to get across a principle of what our knowledge is in Jesus Christ isn't always beneficial to be doing the same thing with someone else that is earlier in their walk with God. And we see in verse 2, it says, anyone who claims to know all the answers doesn't really know very much. But the person who loves God is the one whom God recognizes. And so here we see that we can have all the knowledge of our walks with God, but if we do not love others and think of others first before we act or before we do things, we really aren't following Jesus at the core of what he desires for us. And his analogy, his story that he uses, talks about giving food to idols and eating food that are given to idols, and whether that's a sin or not. And we know as Christians that that food carries no weight, that that food doesn't have any curses or anything on that, because it's an idol, it's a false god, it doesn't carry any of that. So whether we eat it or not, we are not desecrating God's name in any way. But those who could be new in their faith, like they were in Corinth, could view that as, oh, we are following a different god, or now we have an evil spirit, or things of that nature. So Paul is talking to the people in Corinth, be careful about your knowledge that you have in Jesus Christ, that even though you know, someone new in their faith might not know, and if you eat in front of them, you might distract them or pull them away from what Jesus says and get them into an area where their early faith might not survive, and then that's on you. And so how does that apply to us today? One such scenario that I think of right away is drinking. That the Bible doesn't explicitly say that drinking is a sin, but being drunk is a sin. And so those who are mature in their faith and understand that have to be very careful and be very loving to those who aren't as mature or who have had prior struggles and are now saved by Jesus Christ and no longer struggle with that. They must be very careful how they apply that knowledge in their love with other people, aka not drinking around those that have either struggled or are newer in their faith and don't know the deep principles of that. So today, church, as you go around and you interact with people around you, be mindful of your faith and how it interacts with people around you. That your first thought is love. How would this impact the other person? Thinking about the other person first, instead of saying, oh, I have this freedom, I can act however I want. Because if you're not thinking about the other person, you might lead them down a path away from where Christ wants them to go. So be encouraged today, church, with that knowledge that your freedom has a responsibility and you can love people first and lead them closer to Christ. Have a great day, church.